The hospital murders. Johan's first major display of strategic brilliance occurs in 1986, following Dr. Kenso Tenma, a Japanese neurosurgeon working in Dusseldorf, Germany during the 1980s. One night, two children are brought to the hospital with gunshot wounds to the head, 9-year-old twins Johan and Anna Liebert. Around the same time, the city's mayor arrives needing surgery. The hospital director orders Tenma to operate on the mayor instead of the boy who arrived first, but Tenma refuses and chooses to save Johan's life. The mayor dies, and as punishment, Tenma loses his position as lead surgeon, and his engagement to the director's daughter falls apart. Johan survives the surgery, but remains in a coma for some time. His twin sister Anna wakes up first, traumatized and unable to speak about what happened to them. When Johan finally wakes up, he appears to be a normal, polite child recovering from his injuries. What happens next occurs while Johan is still a patient in the hospital, only 10 years old and physically weakened from major brain surgery. Within days of waking, 3 people die at the hospital. The director, Dr. Heinemann, is found dead in his home. The chief of surgery and another senior doctor also die around the same time. All 3 deaths initially appear to be from natural causes or accidents. The poisoning method used is difficult to detect. The way Johan managed to poison the 3 men depicts how smart he truly is. He adds poison to the candies, which is kept beside his hospital bed, predicting the 3 men would eat that candy. I still don't know how the fuck he did that, especially at this young age. And the deaths are spaced out enough that they don't immediately seem connected. These 3 men were specifically the ones who had punished Tenma for disobeying orders to operate on the mayor. At the same time, these deaths occur, all records of Johan and Anna's admission to the hospital disappear. Their patient files, intake forms, surgery records, and any documentation proving they were ever treated, there are gone. Within a week of these events, Johan and Anna vanish from the hospital entirely. This achieves 2 purposes for Johan. First, it eliminates everyone who had knowledge of his and Anna's admission, erasing any official proof they were ever there. Second, because the people blocking Tenma's career are now dead, Tenma gets promoted to chief of surgery. His career completely recovers, and he becomes one of the hospital's most respected doctors. This creates a psychological burden on Tenma. Even though he had no involvement, he benefits from these deaths, making him feel somehow complicit. Manipulating the 3 serial killers in Frankfurt. Several years after the hospital incident, Johan has become a phantom, moving through Germany's criminal underworld. Dr. Tenma is now wanted for murders he didn't commit, and is trying to track down Johan to prove his innocence and stop further killings. Meanwhile, Detective Heinrich Lunge, Germany's top investigator, is pursuing Tenma, believing he's a murderer who invented Johan as an elaborate cover story. In Frankfurt, a series of murders occur that appear unrelated. 3 different serial killers are operating in the city, each with their own victim profile and methodology. One killer targets middle-aged couples in their homes, strangling them and arranging their bodies in specific positions. Another focuses on young women, using a different method entirely. The third has his own distinct pattern. Police treat these as separate cases because the methods, victims, and patterns have nothing in common. What investigators don't know is that Johan has made contact with all 3 killers separately. He found these men through connections in the criminal underworld. They were already murderers with established patterns and urges. Johan approaches each one individually, never revealing that he's in contact with the others. He presents himself as someone who understands them, someone they can confide in without judgment. To the first killer, Johan becomes a listener and advisor. The man has been killing for years but has never been able to discuss his urges with anyone. Johan lets him talk freely about his fantasies and methods, validating his feelings without condemnation. During these conversations, Johan casually mentions details about potential victims, where certain couples live, when they'll be home alone, information about their routines that would be useful for someone planning to target them. With the second killer, Johan uses the same approach but tailored to that man's specific psychology. He learns what triggers this killer's urges, what type of victim appeals to him, and what his fantasies involve. Johan then provides information that guides this killer towards specific targets. The third killer receives similar treatment. Johan becomes the one person who truly understands him, creating a relationship where the killer begins seeking Johan's approval and input. Johan feeds him information about potential victims and subtly influences the timing and location of his kills. All 3 killers believe they're acting on their own impulses and choosing their own victims. They don't know that Johan has researched these victims beforehand and is using the killers to eliminate specific people for reasons the killers don't understand. The murders serve Johan's larger plans while appearing to be the random acts of separate serial killers. This approach gives Johan 3 advantages. First, he maintains complete deniability. He never physically participates in any murders, making him legally untouchable even if the killers are caught. Second, because 3 different people with different methods are committing these crimes, law enforcement sees them as unrelated incidents with no obvious pattern connecting them except geography. Third, by becoming a confidant these killers depend on psychologically, Johan gains control over unstable, violent individuals without needing to use use force or threats. When Detective Lunge investigates the Frankfurt murders, he treats them as unrelated cases. The investigation focuses on catching each individual killer without considering the possibility of someone orchestrating multiple murderers simultaneously. Johan maintains this arrangement until outside events disrupt it, successfully using 3 dangerous individuals as tools without any of them realizing they're being controlled or even suspecting that the others exist. Outsmarting Inspector Heinrich Lunge, he is introduced as Germany's most formidable detective. He possesses photographic memory. He can recall entire case files, witness statements, and evidence details with perfect accuracy years after reading them. He's developed a unique investigation method where he becomes the criminal mentally, typing out their thoughts and actions on an imaginary keyboard to understand their psychological profile and predict their next moves. His case solve rate is exceptional, and he's built a reputation as someone who never fails once he commits to an investigation. When Heinrich Lunge is assigned to investigate the series of murders connected to Johan, he examines all available evidence and constructs a theory. Dr. Kenzo Tenma is the killer. From his perspective, the evidence is compelling. Tenma was present at the hospital where the first murders occurred. He had motive. The victims were people who had damaged his career. Tenma has been seen near multiple crime scenes. Witnesses place him in cities where murders happened. When he tries to question Tenma, Tenma flees, which Lunge interprets as consciousness of guilt. He builds an elaborate profile of Tenma as a surgeon who had a psychological break after his career was damaged, developed a god complex about deciding who lives and dies, and has been killing people across Germany while maintaining a facade of trying to catch an imaginary person named Johan Liebert. To support this theory, he knows that no official records of Johan Liebert exist, no birth certificate, no hospital records after the initial incident, no documentation that proves he's a real person rather than Tenma's delusion or cover story. What he doesn't know is that Johan has deliberately created this evidence trail. The hospital records disappeared because Johan destroyed them. As a child, Tenma appears near crime scenes because Johan has led him to those locations, knowing Tenma is hunting him. Witnesses have seen Tenma in cities where murders occurred because Johan committed those murders in places where he knew Tenma would also be, either following leads or trying to prevent killings. By positioning his crimes where Tenma would be present, Johan creates a pattern that points directly at Tenma. Johan also manipulates what witnesses remember about him. When people do see Johan, their descriptions are often vague or contradictory. Some describe him as having blonde hair, others brown. Some remember him as tall, others don't. These inconsistent descriptions make it difficult for investigators to construct a clear picture of what Johan looks like, and Lunge interprets this as evidence that witnesses are unreliable or confused, perhaps remembering Tenma himself but distorting their memories due to trauma. In some cases, Johan revisits witnesses before police can conduct follow-up interviews. These witnesses either become too frightened to talk to police again, suddenly claim they don't remember anything, or in a few cases they die before investigators can question them further. When witnesses recant their statements or die mysteriously, Lunge sometimes interprets this as Tenma eliminating people who could identify him, which reinforces his theory rather than contradicting it. His investigation method requires him to construct a psychological profile and then filter all evidence through that profile. Once he's convinced himself that Tenma is the killer, every new piece of evidence gets interpreted in a way that reinforces this belief. When evidence doesn't quite fit his Tenma theory, Lunge rationalizes it rather than reconsidering his fundamental assumption. This becomes Lunge's weakness. His confidence in his own methods makes him inflexible. Johan understands this aspect of Lunge's psychology. He doesn't try to convince Lunge of anything. He simply ensures that the evidence available will lead him to construct a theory that focuses on Tenma Johan, occasionally leaves small inconsistencies deliberately, details that don't quite match a profile of Tenma as the killer. Lunge notices these inconsistencies and spends time trying to explain them within his existing theory, rather than questioning whether his theory might be wrong. Johan also predicts where Lunge will investigate next based on the evidence trail. He uses this predictability to position himself elsewhere when he knows Lunge will be in a specific location. In some cases, Lunge's investigation inadvertently destroys evidence that might have pointed to Johan's existence. Throughout this extended period, Lunge remains convinced that Tenma is the killer and Johan is either imaginary or a real person Tenma is framing, never realizing that the evidence was curated specifically to point exactly where it points. Destroying Hans Schuwald's life. Schuwald is in his 70s and is one of Germany's wealthiest men. He made his fortune in finance and has built an empire over decades of careful business decisions. He's nearly blind due to age, but remains mentally sharp. His influence extends throughout German economic and political circles. He owns a massive private library containing rare books and manuscripts, which he can no longer read himself, but maintains for their historical value. Schuwald has an estranged son named Karl. Their relationship is complicated and damaged, with Karl resenting his father for reasons that stem from their family history. Schuwald has regretted regrets about how he raised Carl and about decisions he made in the past that affected his family. Johan enters Schuwald's life by becoming a student working in Schuwald's private library. This happens through what appears to be normal hiring channels. Johan applies for the position and is selected. He begins working with Schuwald's books, cataloging and maintaining the collection. During this work, Johan has conversations with Schuwald about literature, philosophy, and history. Over months or possibly years, Johan becomes a regular presence in Schuwald's life. He engages intellectually with Schuwald in ways that few people do. For Schuwald, who is isolated by his wealth and power and separated from his son, Johan represents intellectual companionship, and something resembling the relationship he wished he had with Carl. Johan never explicitly presents himself as a surrogate son, but he fills that role through his actions and attention. Johan quietly investigated Schuwald's past. He learned about Margot, the abandoned son named Carl, and the guilt that Schuwald pretended no longer existed. Then Johan began distorting that past. He manipulated letters, arranged suspicious meetings, and planted subtle doubts. He pushed conversations in just the right direction so Schuwald would begin to question whether Carl was really his son or if someone was exploiting his weakness for inheritance money. For a blind man, confusion about trust is a devastating weapon, and Johan used it with precision. Meanwhile, Johan targeted the people around Schuwald. Carl wanted nothing more than to understand his father, while Martin, a man hired to protect Schuwald, cared deeply for Carl's well-being. Johan pushed these two men into emotional turmoil. He fed Carl hope, then tore it away. He fed Martin anger, then intensified it. All of this instability collected around Schuwald, who remained unaware that his quiet assistant was behind every emotional fracture. Finally, Johan planned the ultimate destruction, burning down Schuwald's treasured library. This wasn't just a building, it symbolized Schuwald's identity, reputation, and life's work. Johan manipulated emotionally fragile people into believing the fire was meant to happen, turning the library into a trap designed to kill Schuwald and bury his past in flames. Schuwald survived the fire, but the damage was permanent. His empire crumbled, his trust was shattered, and every secret he tried to hide was dragged into the light. Johan didn't just ruin Schuwald's life, he dismantled the man from the inside out, and he did it using nothing but knowledge, psychology, and the regret Schuwald could never escape, masterminding the Ruhenheim massacre. Ruhenheim is a small town in Germany near the Czech border. It has a population of around 40 to 50 residents, mostly older people and a few families. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone else, families have lived there for generations, and nothing significant ever happens. The town has normal small town dynamics. Some residents like each other, some have old grudges, there are family rivalries and business competitions, but these tensions remain beneath the surface because social structures keep them contained. By this point in the series, multiple storylines are converging. Dr. Tenma has been hunting Johan for years. Various other characters connected to Johan's past are also searching for him. Inspector Lunge has begun to suspect his theory about Tenma might be wrong and is reconsidering the evidence. Johan has been executing various plans throughout the series, and Ruhenheim is where many of these threads come together. Johan has been visiting Ruhenheim periodically over an extended period before the main events occur. During these visits, he befriends various residents. He learns about their lives, their relationships with neighbors, their secrets, their resentments, and their insecurities. He identifies the underlying tensions in the community, old grudges between families, hidden affairs, business rivalries, jealousies, suspicions that have never been voiced openly. Johan begins manipulating these dynamics. He tells one resident something about another resident that's partially true but framed in a damaging way. He reveals secrets that people thought were safely hidden, doing so through casual conversations that ensure the information reaches the right people. He provides information that makes existing suspicions seem confirmed. He exploits existing tensions by creating situations where those tensions escalate. Each manipulation creates reactions that lead to further destabilization. When one resident confronts another based on information Johan provided, that confrontation creates new tensions with other residents. When someone acts on suspicions Johan planted, their actions make other residents suspicious. The social structures that normally keep small town tensions contained begin breaking down through this cascade effect. Johan also arranges for specific people from outside Ruhenheim to arrive in town at particular times. He brings people connected to his past, people who have been searching for him, and people he's manipulated throughout the series. Some arrive seeking Johan, others arrive thinking they're there for different reasons, and others are led there without understanding why. Johan controls the timing of these arrivals to ensure maximum chaos when everything converges. As tensions in Ruhenheim escalate, residents who have lived peacefully together for years begin turning on each other. The atmosphere in town becomes paranoid and hostile. Small incidents that normally wouldn't matter become interpreted as attacks or threats. Residents start arming themselves and viewing their neighbors as enemies. When the massacre begins, it starts with residents killing other residents. A confrontation between two people over a grievance escalates to violence. That violence triggers other confrontations. People take sides in conflicts that multiply and branch into new conflicts. The killing spreads through the town as ordinary residents make decisions to commit violence against their neighbors. This achieves Johan's goal of proving his philosophy about human nature. Johan has spent the entire series demonstrating his belief that humans are fundamentally capable of extreme violence, and that civilization is a thin structure. Covering this capacity, Ruhenheim represents his ultimate proof. He transforms an entire peaceful town into a massacre where ordinary people kill each other, demonstrating that anyone can become violent under the right conditions. Importantly, Johan doesn't force anyone to kill. When the massacre begins, it's residents making choices to commit violence that seem rational or necessary to them. The moment Johan positions himself within this chaos, but not as a visible orchestrator. He's present in Ruhenheim during the massacre, but residents don't understand that one person engineered everything. The violence appears to them as if it erupted organically from the town's own internal problems that finally boiled over. Multiple storylines from throughout the series converge in Ruhenheim. During this event, characters who have been searching for Johan arrive and get caught in the violence. Dr. Tenma arrives trying to stop Johan and instead finds himself trying to protect innocent people caught in the massacre. Inspector Lunge arrives and witnesses events that force him to reconsider his theories about the case. Various people connected to Johan's past are present and must confront him or the chaos he's created. The massacre continues for hours, with the death toll rising as more residents turn violent. Johan has structured the situation so that stopping the violence requires choosing between multiple urgent needs: finding Johan, protecting innocent people, preventing further killings, or attempting to calm the situation. Different characters make different choices based on their priorities and principles. By the time the Ruhenheim massacre concludes, a significant portion of the town's population is dead. The survivors are traumatized and their community is destroyed. The event represents the culmination of Johan's various plans throughout the series, bringing together multiple characters and storylines in a single location where Johan has orchestrated circumstances to create maximum destruction from ordinary people making choices to harm each other. Guys, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed this long video covering smartest moments of Johan, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I do realize that I have more moments / feats to cover. If this video gets 1,000 likes, I will make a part 2. In the meantime, watch this video right here, and I will see you there. Peace.